has laid as a foundation. We have some main features and user stories already outlined. And those features and user stories are what has given us that 2-month timeline. So if we change that dramatically, that timeline is going to shift. But it seems like, and if we're all aligned on this call, it seems like that a 2-month timeline for an MVP release can happen. What I'm imagining is that the MVP is released at the same time as the crowdfunding page. So we are showing people, look, this is real, we've been working on it, and we're telling them the whole story, like the whole why it's happening, what the plan is, what the roadmap is, why they should believe in us, why they should fund us. And when I say us, it's an ever-evolving us. So it's a fairly bare bones MVP, but it's really just like proof of concept to all the people who are watching and who we hope will begin watching and funding us. We are Legion, yes. And so simultaneously, in parallel with all of that, with building the MVP, we are going to be figuring out the DAO structure, which ideally will be kind of solidified 6 months out. That's kind of where my head is today.
Is there somebody who's kind of leading that up? Because I'd be happy to introduce I know these people over at Decent DAO, that they build governance, and they have a free governance platform for DAOs, and they would help us set it up. I can make an intro to Dara, and we can, like, whoever wants to head that up, talk to Dara, and they've got the thing. They haven't figured out how to monetize, so whatever.
Please, yes. I think Casey, that might be you and Kiara and whoever else can help when we can. And hopefully we'll be able to bring in a few more people.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
So we have our 2-month kind of point in the timeline, target in the timeline with the MVP, and the 6-month target in the timeline with the DAO, and building the MVP so that it has hooks to be able to become a DAO without having to be totally reworked.
Well, and there's a possibility that we could actually, so I'm in a DAO that when I joined it, it's called Block Advocates. And so it basically is a proponent for credit union tech in like using the Hedera blockchain. But it's really cool because it's, people helping people. It's social capitalism is what, like, that is what the company does. And we just, like, I gave them like $350, and then I was in the DAO, but I didn't get my like NFT or any of my stuff about it I still haven't actually, but but I'm in it. And so that's a possibility with the fundraising page, is like we could have it at different levels. If we even know what's going to be in the DAO, be like, you're going to be this kind of thing. This is the kind of flair you're going to get around it, and you get voting rights, stuff like that.
Yeah. I don't know if you saw in the PRD, there is a little point for during, possibly we can get a little bit of marketing about the DAO and about like being a self-governing ecosystem in the sign up. So it's sort of like informing people that this is coming, without actually having to bake in the functionality quite yet, because I don't think we'll have that anywhere close to ironed out. Please interrupt me and like correct me whenever I'm off course here.
I'm tracking with everything you're saying. I totally agree.
Great. So those are the two sort of like spots on our timeline. I'm hoping to visualize this timeline for everyone too, kind of apart from Monday, so we have like a map. But what we have going today, kind of in parallel with that, is we have design research, which is doing competitive analysis, which is hoping to surface features, some solutions, some UX, UI patterns that are helpful for the MVP, but also can go onto our feature list for prioritization on the roadmap post MVP for like our next release or the release after that, however we plan it. Also within sort of the design scope right now, we're working on the design system, and we're doing that in sort of like the most kind of lightweight way so that we can provide what dev needs for doing the MVP. And then that can sort of be built out and massaged over time as well. But like the kind of priority with the design system is hitting what features are outlined for the MVP. And also simultaneously in research, we have Cassandra doing a kind of more like general background research, which will be useful and informative in little pieces, but it isn't directly informing like the MVP build, for example. It might help with some of the features and functionality post MVP. And we might be able to, if, for example, in the process of making the MVP, we prototype some screens or some functionality, we might be able to have Cassandra test those with like our kind of general users. And we might also be able to test those with creators who are our primary audience, like the user that we're going after. So that is the other parallel work stream. We need to kind of collectively be pushing forward on establishing relationships with creators. There is a spreadsheet document for that, and I think Casey, you've made some progress on that already.
I've
I'll
only
hand that
added
over to you.
Yeah, I've only added one person, but this person, I don't know if anybody's familiar, Zachary Loft, he's been doing a lot of videos about the Fed, the gold standard, inflation, housing. He's about almost 2 million, and he's got a pretty decent engagement. So I added his, but I have quite a few others. I just haven't gone through my inbox and on TikTok and actually added them, but I started with the one I think is that I have that's the most influential. I actually just had a question on the timeline, or just I guess checking in on awareness. You know, with the whole TikTok ban, right? It went away, it came back, but there is still a fairly decent chance that in about 60 days it's gone. So that is right around the time when this would be launching. And not to like put any added pressure on, but I think TikTok is our like best weapon, I guess, about getting it out. So so that coincides nicely if we can make that happen. And I was thinking about, based on our last conversation, you know, we were talking about, well, first of all, everybody's migrating, but it's not like everyone's going to one. There are some like Substack, Blue Sky, whatever, but you know, we talked about the resistance potentially for someone going, oh, I got to set up another one. So I was actually thinking we could get really creative on the marketing and say the last migration you're ever going to want to do. And then also we could think through, like if we're starting with this MVP, which I apologize, I was behind on the plan, but totally makes sense. We need something to market, and then we work on building our ideal future state as a team with the users, right? But if we explain all of it, you know, when we drop it, we open up the ability for them to also buy into the plan. If there's any capability that we can think of, like, for example, when it's time to move from the MVP to the ideal state product, if we could, I guess I'm asking, could we do a migration for them or a download, upload for them? So even though this is not our final product, but the last one you're going to ever have to do, and once you're in here, we're going to move you over to the one that you design with us when it's all done.
That's something we've discussed in our sort of dreamstorming, how we sort of port people and their network in. Adam.
So fortunately, the way we're building this, once you're on the AT Protocol platform, all your likes, who you follow, all that stuff is actually stored in your data repository. If we stand up our own servers, which are independent of the Blue Sky servers, you don't have to port anything. It's there. There is no porting. That's one of the advantages of it. You can hook up, and then for some reason, let's say we drop the ball and someone else comes along with a better widget, and it's on the AT protocol. They can just go use the better widget, and all their data comes along, and the other designers are going to hook into that data because it's a standardized data format. Once you're on here, as long as you don't leave the AT protocol network for something else, you don't have to port anymore. So if we move, they move with us. It doesn't, no extra work.
Yeah, that's amazing, because if we can utilize the last days of TikTok and build this excitement and kind of, bundle it as, listen, this is your app. It's exactly what you want. You never have to go through this again if you don't want to and call people over. I think that's awesome. So that's amazing that it has that capability.
And I think even if it isn't actually the last days of TikTok, there will be rumbling around that time. So it's the timing alignment is perfect for just marketing generally. The last
Me too,
days of
Kara.
TikTok.
Yeah, Adam, you can that stick.io. I believe that it's available via API call as well, but I use that for one of the companies I work for. We use that and a couple other tools like it to pull down information and scan for deepfakes. But you get a clean video feed from that. And so if we did want to create a migration tool, perhaps it could hit that, and maybe we would have to charge people to migrate all of their videos because the API call is going to cost us money. But if you let somebody pay you $10 and it pulls all their stuff and uploads it, and they'll pay that, it's going to save them more than $10 in time.
Amazing.
There are other ones too. If like that one looks like a pain, just let me know. Also, coincidentally, with this whole TikTok might be going away, I was just talking with Jesse, and he has figured out how to let people claim their TikTok profiles on TrueAnon, because I told him to. And so he's working on that. So then it could be like, look, this is validated. This is the creator you meant to follow. It's not one of their dozen scammers.
Amazing. That's really exciting.
So when they do that, is it possible to save off people's hashtag likes, with their preferences? So one thing the team had talked about was, if I come in and I've got my TrueAnon account as just an end user, and I hook up to that, when I log in, if I can have that data already there, I don't need to ask you, hey, what are you interested in? Could you please fill out my little survey of what you're interested in yet again?
It doesn't work exactly like that, because it's like a public attestation where you link it. So like when you do it on LinkedIn, you actually post like a little snippet of code. When you link your Blue Sky, you just tweet or whatever they call it on Blue Sky.
I was thinking that they had a hook into TikTok to look at the TikTok user's profile, which means they need to have an API call from TikTok to hit it. And when they're in there getting that profile, to say, are you actually the right person, or are you the other 50 spammers, right? I understand they're using a database to say, okay, great, yes, I've got enough history to say that you are the right person and your TikTok profile is the right one of 100. I was just curious, while they're in there, could they collect and store off?
I don't think. Well, it doesn't. We don't get the data from an API call.
Okay.
Yeah, it's all done using like that part of the product is all done using public information. There is like a part of the product that does do API calls. That's mostly for like age, where somebody can sign into like their Class Dojo or their like health record account, and we'll pull down their date of birth to validate the date of birth. Which this is important for like Australia. You have to be over 16 later this year to use socials, or a bunch of stuff, but including socials. Across Europe, this is all going live. California, you have to be over, I think, 13 to be on socials. And so there's a way to use a zero knowledge proof, which do I need to explain that?
I think we're in the weeds for the audience,
Okay.
so we can probably put a pin in
I
it.
was going to start talking about Euclid, which is a problem.
No. But there was a question about downloading your data from TikTok. So here's the problem with that. By the time we're ready, just getting the minimal viable feature sets done, TikTok may be gone. So if customers have already downloaded data off of TikTok, or they know it's going to go away and they download the data and they still got the file, we may be able to give them an upload, but I won't be able to hit an API because TikTok may not be there to hit. It's possible we might be able to hit like a European TikTok node and then pick up the data, because all of our data, whether you know it or not, it's in Europe too. It's also in Asia, but TikTok is distributed.
Makes sense.
So we might be able to hit it there, but with the API call, I'd have to check and see if we can do that.
Kiara.
Could we circle back to the PRD for a moment?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what all needs to happen on this to get the full team aligned? Because it looks like requirements, we probably like as a different people can jump in there and start filling things out. And then I think we get all the teams aligned on what exactly it's going to look like, or what the build is going to look like. And then do we pull that into Monday? Is that the right order of operations, or how would you want to do that?
Yeah. So if we can do the sort of like feature outline, and then there's the technical requirements for those features and user stories, those are all in the PRD document. Then the next step is that the kind of technical architecture, technical requirements document is built out. And then with both of those, we're able to build tasks and timelines and everything into Monday.
Can we
So there's like a tech lead side that is paired with the PRD.
could we possibly assign some ownership to those things? Okay, cool. Adam.
Yeah, so on that front, we've got a nice list of requirements, and what would be helpful is if people could go in and familiarize themselves with the Blue Sky app to go through that and say, okay, yes, this feature is in this product, this is where it is, versus, because right now we've really got 3 or 4 developers and their heads down trying to get changes done. Otherwise, it'd just be me going through that list of all the requirements and then trying to find subject areas within Blue Sky that look like they align and calling those out. Because if the feature is already built inside the app, I don't need to build it, but you may say, hey, it's here, however, comma, it looks like trash. Please make it better this way. And oh, by the way, here's a wireframe with how we want it to look. From that, then I can get the technical specs of, how long it's going to take, what it's going to look like, can we accomplish the yes, but I want to do this instead?
Amazing. Ksenia?
So I was thinking, like, there's kind of 2 approaches that we could go about on the design team that I've been thinking about. One of them is we can really focus in on specific features and really spend a lot of time with like competitor research, which was our initial approach with the competitor research, and really hone in on that and create a few mocks for those specific features, right? And that will take a long time because the competitor research will be more comprehensive. It'll probably make the experience like maybe 15% better from what it was originally. And then for everything else, once you guys build something out, we can go through and do an audit and identify any like major pain points, and you guys can make tweaks. So that's like version 1 of the approach. Version 2, I'm thinking we could do more of a surface level competitor analysis on like the whole app and all of the functionality, build out all of the UI screens using like a UI kit, and then you guys can translate that into the builds. It doesn't have to match the exact styles, it doesn't have to be perfect, but we can make the whole app like 10% better, make sure that people are able to edit the profile effectively and just make a cohesive single experience. So I'm just kind of wondering where you guys think design efforts would be more effective, and kind of weighing those two approaches.
I'm going to jump in with advocating for approach 2, the kind of quick and dirty approach, because the sooner from the design side that we can kind of provide the development side what they need, the sooner we can get back into approach number 1 that you mentioned, where we start like really digging in and defining features through competitive research, through user research, through talking to creators, through a deeper dive. But I would love to hear what everyone else thinks on that. So first option is deeper dive, maybe more perfect, closer to perfect MVP. Second approach is shallower dive, less close to perfect MVP, with a little more time to do the deeper dive afterwards to start building out the roadmap for post MVP. You can vote in the chat if you want, or just speak. Kiara and Mafe, you had your hands up.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I think number 2 as well is the best approach. That I like. We have to be very swift, and there are so many things that are already built by the collective. Like there are applications that work wonderfully and people love them. So we can capitalize on that comfort zone that people already have and start moving little by little towards where we actually want. So definitely on board with option 2.
Yeah, I was just going to say, if it's the difference between 10% better and 15% better, but we save time, definitely the option 2.
Great. And that might also free up, we want to bring in more designers, and maybe some designers who are a little more oriented toward the marketing side. Or, I mean, honestly, if we could just multiply Mafe and Ksenia, we would be golden. But we're also going to need to build out that crowdfunding page. So there's a first draft of the crowdfunding page linked in the PRD document, but that will be launching simultaneously with the MVP. And that's going to include like screens that allow people to imagine what the features will be in the future. So freeing up design resources to push toward that like ideal future state as soon as possible is kind of my goal here.
I have a question that may be a dumb question, but go for it. We are planning to do a desktop version as well, so we would have Android, iOS, and desktop.
Yes, it'll come with a web.
And for the crowdfunding page, about how many like mocks are you thinking would be a good amount, or should we take into account like prototypes or videos of any sort?
I think like a minimum of 3, like just mock-ups, static mock-ups, and a maximum of pointing people toward a clickable prototype. So we can determine where we fall along that scale. But yeah, minimum like 3 vision screens.
Great. So I'm thinking on the design side, we might need to regroup a little to think about how we want to plan out the competitor research. Also think about design systems. Oh, and Adam, sorry, you have your hand up.
Nope. Oh wait, after you're done, please.
I was gonna jump into design systems. So if it's related to this,
Yeah, let me jump in real quick then. Can I make another push for a 2.1 version? So I'm assuming everybody on this call has used a social media platform or 2 or 3. If I get a 2.1 version of, I'm going to beat this drum until you're sick of hearing me saying it. Could you guys log in and use Blue Sky and find the sticking points that are just terrible that you can't stand? Because if we can call out those areas that are just like the heinous of the ugly, and we can start there, I can get developers working on it now, and it doesn't need to be vetted by anybody outside the company. It's just you. This audience is more than enough. I'm thinking along the things along of, I had to do 3 clicks to do what? This needs to be condensed down to 1 page. So if someone is interested in just hitting me up after this call about different ideas of areas, one thing I'm looking at is how prevalent should feed searching be relative to follow searching? Because Blue Sky kind of has them 2 separate areas, because TikTok doesn't really allow you to just pick your feeds. Are they the same priority of element? You know, should they get their own dedicated page? Should they both be on the same page? Should they be rolled under search? You know, and I apologize, I come from Intuit background where it is all about path of least resistance, the least clicks, the least pay, the most polished interface you've got, because we're going to get one shot at a good first impression. If we can get a good first impression out there, no one's going to go back to use the Blue Sky interface. Now, granted, we're still using Blue Sky, but we're giving them Blue Sky Plus better, right? And we don't, I don't want to belittle research. It is important to understand market research, but we all have seen these apps, so we know what a good experience is, and we know what a bad one is. Tell me what the ugly pain points are, and then give me some guidelines on how you think we could fix it, or some options. Then we'll come back and tell you what we can do quickly and what's going to take longer. And what we can do quickly is probably what we want to knock out. All right, I will not bring this up again for at least a week.
Ksenia, before you dive into design systems, I want to just say it sounds like our collective action items from this call are, Adam, you and I can set up like a document for recording everybody's comments on these things and which features we want to like pull people on. Is everybody willing to do a dive into Blue Sky? Great. And
you only get one chance to do the login. So pay really close attention when you set up and take notes on the setup workflow, because you get one shot at doing that.
Yeah, I don't even
set
have
your
I don't
friend
even
or
have
partner
Blue
up
Sky.
if you've already done yours.
Yeah, I don't even have that. So Adam, as a new user, I will pay very, very close attention.
Could you screen record it?
Okay.
Yeah, totally.
Awesome. Okay, so it's dive into Blue Sky for a little like quick and dirty research of what do we have? 7 people here? 6 people?
It's not intuitive. If you need help figuring out how to add the video feed, let me know. I'll give you a couple steps.
Great. And going into the PRD and like connecting those moments, right, Adam? Like where we have these features and it's like, where do you find this feature in Blue Sky? So those are the 2 tasks for everyone to contribute to. All right, Ksenia.
Catch the second one. I didn't quite catch the second task.
In the PRD, in the user stories and feature list, there's like a sort of technical requirement column. I'm not making this up, am I? I'm hallucinating like a ChatGPT.
No,
Oh,
no,
I am.
probably not.
I totally am. But there's a notes column. So in the notes column, I think, Adam, you were requesting that we like give you a little bit of wayfinding for like where this thing is found. And
so it's kind of like I'm asking you to do this research of what the pain points are. But let's say like the engagement, like my likes, my comments, follow, share information. There's a requirement for that, right? It says, well, the app has to do this. Well, in Blue Sky, it has it. It's located here. And oh, by the way, here's a suggestion how we can make it better. Because right now, if you look at, I've got a list of requirements, and most people look at it and say, I need to build this from the ground up. Well, technically, 80% of it's probably there. What isn't there at all, we need to call out and decide, well, if it's not there at all, well, it means it's going to take longer to develop. How important is it to get that non-existent functionality started now? Because if it's high priority and doesn't exist, well, it's going to be longer to build it. Then, hey, it's already there. It's functional. I don't like it, but it's there. Could we tweak it? Okay, I can probably tweak that pretty quickly. But if the functionality is a must-have requirement and it doesn't exist in the Blue Sky product, I call that out so we can decide if that's where we want to start. Make sense?
Yeah, so we can make a like checklist column in that table. So it's like we'll each kind of get assigned a user story or two. And you go through, and if Blue Sky has it, check, and just notes about where you found it. If it doesn't have it, you leave it unchecked, and you give like a first impression of how much you miss it, how much do you think it's needed.
Or if the feature's there, it's like, hey, this works great. No work needed.
Yeah. So checklist and notes on those. All right. Are we ready for me to circle back around to Ksenia and design system? Oh, Nafe, I think you're muted.
I hate that. So for this table, I am wondering, so how are we supposed to tackle it? I want it to be very, very clear who's doing what, when are they doing that, what exactly do we need to do? So well, we already know that we're gonna do the checklist, the notes. I see some blank space with the user story, so I just wanna get crystal clear so we can be super effective.
It looks like there are 9 like overarching user stories or overarching, so like video creation, direct message,
Yep.
like these big things. Yeah. Overarching features. So we can, like, everyone can just drop in and claim a feature, like in the comments, just highlight that feature. So like, I'm going to say, I'm going to do direct message, and I'm just hopping in Katie owns in the comments of this thing.
Also, for all of these, I just like dumped all the features that I thought would be included, and so some of these might be wrong. For example, like in the registration methods and all of that might not align with Blue Skies perfectly. So that's something to consider. And most of these I have pretty good certainty in terms of like them existing in Blue Sky, but it would also be required to like double check some of those things.
So what you're
Does that make
saying
sense?
is that we can complete more features besides the ones you have there?
Yeah, or modify the list of features if you think like we don't need it for the MVP, or if it's not like technically feasible for the MVP. For example, if reposts didn't exist in Blue Sky and it's on the list, you can get rid of it if we don't feel like we need that. It's more an
Yeah.
open-ended list at this point.
And it might be helpful to, like, if you haven't yet, read the preceding document overview, because it might help us align on like what the real like goals of the MVP are. So you can determine if a feature really feels like it's helping us reach those goals or not. Whoa, wow, very cool. All right. Do you want to talk design systems? Do you want to do a like smaller group to talk design systems?
We could regroup as a smaller group if that makes sense. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I definitely agree. Let's discuss that for a moment. Then would love to touch base with Dev so we're aligned on the design system and how we're gonna flush this out. But yeah, we can talk about it. Then we talk with Dev so we're all happy holding hands throughout this process.
So I think
Thank
right
you.
now, just like, can we get a brief overview of where the design system is now and what is being used? Just so we have a good high level understanding of where we're starting at.
I think we're starting from 0.
Is there anything
I
like
think-
out of the box on the Blue Sky like the way that Blue Sky is set up, or are we building with the design system that you guys sent over that's like Radix?
From the dev side, we've got no preference other than, if we want to redo the entire theme, everything about it, that's going to take time. So fortunately, I think that the icon library that you've chosen is very similar to Blue Sky has. So no one's really going to notice it if we don't get to something. So I'm looking at it from the standpoint is we're kind of stuck with what's there. For now, but anything in net new that we're building, we can use the design elements that you want. And like I said, for the most part, all the feature set functionality is there. This is all about reskinning and simplifying. So if we touch it and reskin it and move something, and you've got a widget or an element or an icon or a font or a theme you want us to use, we can do it then. We have no preference. Only that, try not to make it too glaringly contrast to what's already there, because we're not going to be able to get to everything.
Okay, that makes sense. I think that'll be a good starting point for like continuing our discussion later on once we get some time to look over or discuss within the design team as well.
Great. And Casey, you had your hand up. Is there something?
Sorry, I probably could have waited till the end. I was just thinking, I don't know if anybody else feels this way, but with the day job and life and stuff, I get behind on the Discord, and then I find myself searching aimlessly for links that have been sent, which is not the most effective way. So in engagements that I do with my clients, I generally create one spreadsheet that has all the links to everything they would ever need. So as we go through the project, as more things come up, it's a single repository point of contact where you can go to get all the information. And you could even have it like, for designers or your links. And that way everybody isn't having to search, because I know for myself, that's a little anxiety provoking sometimes when I'm scrolling and I can't find what I'm looking for. So just a thought, not related, sorry.
I think on Monday, we can also create some sort of link repository or something like that, so everyone has quick access to it while doing their tasks.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I'm not sure if everybody has access to Monday.com or will have access to Monday.com. I could be mistaken on that front. I think on the design team, you all have access. On the development side, we don't. So I would caution against putting something where the developers might need to go look at the asset or try to find it someplace that we can't get access.
So I think we've got an unlimited number of view only, but I don't know if
That's good.
are you able to like see the actual boards? We can figure that out later too. That's no problem. If Monday doesn't work, we can just stick it in good old Google spreadsheet.
Thanks. And on that note, I think that was my invitation to leave the call, so there's a smaller group.
Bye, Adam. Thank you.
Casey and Ally, did you want to add anything before we kind of scoop down to just design team talking about design details?
Oh, no, yeah, I'm good. I do have, so I've been working on just different governance and deferred revenue in lieu of sort of like a sweat equity model, and the different legal structurings we could do and the tax implications of those. And I've got a ton of stuff. I just don't know when would be a good time to meet with that. Kiara, I can touch base with you after. I don't know what meeting that would be appropriate for, or I can just send you all of the information I have, but I just wanted to put it out there that before, we get too far on the project, you're probably going to want to do at least a base entity formation and start, getting some things going on that from the legal standpoint and just, creation standpoint over the next month or two, so that when you guys are ready to launch the MVP, the structure is fully built, ready to support that product.
Yeah,
So.
definitely. Let's touch base and we'll set up a meeting.
Okay, sounds good. I don't have anything else, guys. Have a great meeting.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for
Bye.
joining us.
Bye.
Can I hang out and listen? Is that cool? I don't have much to say. I'm just
Yeah.
curious. Cool.
No one's kicked out. It's just, do you want to spend your time with us?
Fair. Totally fair.
It's do I want to spend my time in those weeds? I think I'm gonna bounce too. I did want to mention TrustCon submissions for speakers are still open, and which is Trust and Safety's conference that happens every July in San Francisco. And if somebody like around what we're doing, I'll be spinning up a couple submissions to talk about what we're doing over here. But if anybody wants to, like, that's a great place to get some talent, some trust and safety talent to be interested. And there's a lot of people laid off that would be willing to contribute effort to something like what we're doing. And so if you have anything, so Google sends their UX team like every year. I think there were 24 of them last year. And so like, if you all wanted to come up with some kind of submission there, that might be interesting.
Yeah, you said it's in SF?
It's in SF, yeah. It's usually like the last week of July.
Yeah, aren't you? You're both in the Bay Area, right?
No, I'm in LA, but Patrick, the other designer, he's in the Bay Area.
Yeah, so that's all I've got. See you guys.
Okay.
Bye, LA.
Okay,
Right.
let's talk about the
Design
design system.
You two are the experts on this. I have worked around design systems. I have encouraged teams to start them. I have reviewed them, but I have not actually built them myself. So
Yeah, well, Figma by default provides UI kits for iOS and material design for Android that we can pull some things from and then give it like a little tweak. I have typically started design systems from scratch, but I think that this is a great moment to repurpose something that already exists. I don't know, Sani, if you already have experience with that.
Yeah, so I also typically start from scratch, but I have looked into Figma libraries that are available, and this is the one. This actually aligns directly with the component library that's available to developers. And we don't necessarily even have to use this as like the pixel perfect guide. We could just use this for like prototyping for like V1, just to have it as like wireframes. And so we have something to reference. And then from there, we can like polish the details.
Yeah.
It has pretty much everything. I don't love how it's set up. The colors, they have like the full spectrums, which is great, but they don't have like the semantic usage. But if we're primarily using the components that already exist in here, like avatars, and we can like modify these components also, buttons. So there's like a ton here. We can decide within that what we want to use. And it could just be a starting point for like just getting out quick and dirty mock-ups just to show the idea of what direction we're kind of leaning towards. And then if we have time and if we want to polish any further, then we can like create a design system from scratch and kind of, or like leverage parts of this design system and modify it. I don't know what you think, but it has a lot of resources that we won't have to build from scratch for just this initial round of work that might kind of speed up the process in kind of getting the design into a little bit more polished state and kind of communicating what we're looking for.
Yeah, I love it. We just need a starting point. And for example, I was thinking the conversation around color, it's huge and it's a whole thing. Let's just do black for now. We could even launch the app with black, and then further down the line, we add beautiful colors and the logo, I think Katie, you said something about a cool agency that does branding. And I'm thinking we can just stick with black. Think about an accent color for important things. We already have the feedback colors like green, yellow, red for errors and those type of things. Maybe we can just think of one color-ish for something that we want to stand out, and that's it. Like simplifying the color palette, because otherwise you're gonna go crazy. We already have a conversation with Deb and how we're supposed to name the layers. I think that's going to be super crucial that we have that in mind, so we can build the components with a way that they can easily transfer to their development. And yeah, it's going to be like putting those wireframes is going to be very quick. And I think my headphones just died.
We hear you.
Okay, yeah, there's one that's still working. Okay, so yeah, I'm thinking that later we can start tweaking icons and stuff like that. I was thinking creating components in a version model, so we can quickly update the components as we go, changing the variant using versions. And in that way, we don't have to, that's a nightmare, like changing components. But if we do versions, like if we always start like, I don't know, button version 1, then when we adjust everything and to version 2, it's going to be so much easier. It's just changing the variable. And where I think it's going to be super crucial that we do put a bit of attention, it's in the tone and the storytelling we put into things. I do have a lot of passion for the onboarding process. That's why in the MVP, I was like, I want to work on this, because I think that's going to set the tone. And that's where I do want us to have a meeting, have a session where we polish that more than the icons, because the icons will just evolve them. But this sense of transparency that we've been discussing, it's something I want us to have super upfront in all of our design. And I guess, yeah, those would be kind of my contributions. Love the design system that you picked, Sani. I think it's a great start. And we can start creating some very rudimentary lo-fi wireframes to understand the whole structure. Remember, the information architecture of the app was one thing we discussed, that it can become a nightmare if we don't start flushing that out right now. So I'm thinking just do a literal frame, a gray rectangle, where we kind of make the whole flow, so we are visualizing the information architecture of the app. And yeah, what else can we say about this?
Just a quick comment on the storytelling aspect. So like people are kind of averse to long onboarding processes, and that's where a lot of drop off can happen. I'm wondering if we can have some of the storytelling in app where we're like, this is like a separate page for our vision, maybe a spot to like leave feedback, and pretty like high level, or we could even add like updates like, hey, this is coming around this time, for any, like, this is how much crowdfunding we've gathered so far, or we have a feature release coming up, because at the early stages we're not going to have that many features to work with anyways. And ideally we'd want to kind of like get people excited and really create that space to build that momentum. But yeah, it's just an idea, but something to consider.
100% with you. Like, oh, go ahead, Katie, please.
There's also, so instead of building, I always think about like, what's the most lightweight way to achieve this goal? And the storytelling, I agree, is really important for like the first people in the door. What if, I don't know, what if we were able to do that by having everyone who signs up in this like first MVP cohort be automatically following our brand, and we are surfacing the storytelling of our brand to them. Like they can opt out, but like it just might be an easier way for us to produce content, update content, to do some of that storytelling. But I think you're right that the storytelling is key.
I was just thinking the same thing when Senia brought up that very long onboardings. Yeah, absolutely on point. It's what I've been sharing with you guys. Like this small details in the traditional like onboarding flow that make a whole difference. Like you have the terms of conditions. Hey, we'll just explain this in a nutshell for you, so you know that you're not doing something shady. And then we said, okay, you do go to that page, you have the option to copy, so you can paste it in AI, so you can review. So those type little like drops of love, if you will, it's kind of corny, but it's how I like can say it, that are gonna make the difference. But I love what you're saying. Both, I had that immediate thought of our videos being part of their news feed or their feed where we explain this whole thing. And I think Chiara here is very magnetic in that way, so she can create some beautiful videos that can essentially help people like motivate and get on board with this. So yeah, I love to have that. So transparency and telling our story in the in-app every day, instead of being like, this is a 30-minute onboarding. Let's bring your tea. Yeah, absolutely not. So yeah, I love it.
I think if you can, while you're going through like the Blue Sky flow, if you can identify the areas where Blue Sky already has something that we just need to adjust, rather than something that we might need to add. And if there is something that you're like, oh my gosh, this is a great opportunity to add, then we can like start moving that toward our feature list for prioritizing on the roadmap. Because I agree it's important, and maybe we can achieve it, like maybe we can achieve like a fraction of it in a very efficient way for the MVP.
Yeah, I think I've seen Blue Sky doing feed posts about their updates. Something else that comes to mind, it's explaining things in very simple terms. Like, this is complex. What we're trying to build is super complex. And the first resistance is, ooh, no, this is too much. I don't want to learn about this. So I think that's another thing to keep in mind. How do we explain this in a way, for a 5-year-old, like literally ChatGPT, how to explain this? So, and the prompt I use is so that a burnout person with brain fog can understand this. That's the prompt that I use. So, and it creates like very interesting material. So yeah, absolutely on that point. Okay, what else do we, I do have a question, but it's not design system related. It's like next steps. So next steps, we have to recalibrate what we're going to do in terms of the competitive analysis. Is this a good time, or do you have to go?
This is a good time for me. I have another hour before
This is a good time for me too.
I also have like 15 to 20 minutes. So let's see. So for the competitive analysis, as discussed, we're going to change the competitors we're going to analyze. We flushed a list in Discord, Katie, that it was TikTok, Instagram Reels. Let's see if I can pull it up. Red Note was the other one. Where is this? We have so many conversations.
I have so many tabs open, I'm going to like break meat if I try to show it, but I was going to pull up just your research plan and tracking board.
Oh, here it is. So it's TikTok, Blue Sky, top of mind, XHS, Red Note, Pixel Feed or Fed, Loops, and Neptune. So those would be the ones.
Xiaohongshu, which is Redbook. That's
Okay.
the XHS.
Ah, I see. They are the same. It's not just one
They're the
out.
same.
Oh, yeah. That's good.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Oh yeah, perfect. So we can do those, and what we're going to be analyzing, it's going to be essentially, let's just
Can I pause just to make sure, Kiara, you also think that that's a decent list? Because some of the other things that we had on the more broad list in the original board, we had YouTube Shorts, Substack, Mastodon, Lemonade.
Yeah,
this would-
it's a good question. I think that's a solid list. I do wonder about Reels instead of Shorts, but I'm not super attached. I just think that YouTube in general has like a better experience. And then the other one that is actually the closest to what we're doing, honestly, is Skylight, but they're in beta, so I don't think that we could necessarily go do adequate homework on them anyway. I think they share a lot on their TikTok and stuff, so we might be able to glean something that way. But in terms of like who's actually building something the most similar, like TikTok on AT Proto, it would be Skylight. But for the most part, yeah, I agree with the list. Oh, you're on Skylight.
Yeah, I got it yesterday. It's pretty easy to get into the beta.
Oh, cool.
They
Great.
shared
I
it.
was kind of considering that to be the same as Blue Sky. So
Oh, okay.
I
Well,
think
'cause
the
they're just
experience is different. Oh, sorry, Kiara.
I think they're like reskinning it is kind of the idea, and they said that they were adding an algorithm. So yeah, I don't know. If we were to trade out one, I would say maybe trade out Reels for Skylight, but I'm also not super attached to any of that. So whatever the team thinks is best is fine with me on that. As long as like, Blue Sky, TikTok, and Redbook are on there. I think those are a couple of the really important ones. Oh, and Neptune.
yeah, Reels was added as just like the last one in the list because Mafe said that we had room for one more. So I think it's interchangeable with whatever we think is most strategic.
Okay, cool. My money would be on Skylight. And we may find that it's not much different from Blue Sky, but I'd actually love to know more about that, to be honest.
I think one thing we should also consider in which ones we're picking is whether the goal is more centered on considering what is like a good user experience and kind of learning from that versus like product offerings and how we can differentiate. Because I don't think some of the newer apps have the best user experience. They're kind of like pretty quickly put together. So
That's a great
I don't know.
That's a great point. So in that case, Skylight doesn't make sense, and it should be probably Reels or Shorts. Yeah, good call.
Yeah, so Reels or Shorts works really well for our primary user, like what is motivating them and what might motivate them to switch from TikTok, Reels, Shorts to us, or to use us most out of all of those options. Maybe we track Skylight like as its own sort of separate project, like where we're just kind of keeping up to date on what is Skylight doing? Are they doing anything cool or interesting? Is there something new? Rather than like going through them with the same sort of architecture of comparative analysis that we're doing for all of these others.
Yeah, I think that whomever takes on the Blue Sky should buy appendix also to Skylight. I am curious like that. I'm like, what are they doing? Because they are a competitor right now. So even I agree with you in terms of UX, UI, they're not our primary target, but we are racing with them. Like literally, they are in our next lane. So we have to know what's going on there. So I'm not sure if it's a big ask to do those two things at the same time. We can decide that, like if it's gonna happen, but I would. So here in the research goals, we have to identify the UX trends and patterns across competitors. Yes. Analyze how creators monetize content. I think this would go into another competitive analysis, right? Because now we're focusing on MVP. So I think we should analyze those essentially features that are flushed in the MVP document. So we should be just focusing on those to identify best practices like industry standards and opportunities to improve user experience overall. I will always make an emphasis in understand transparency and user freedom best practices. How are they doing that or not?
So I think that is strategically like sound to consider that in our comparative analysis, because the story that our MVP is wrapped in is oriented toward that, right? So it is almost entirely certain that that is going to be one of our key differentiators. So yes, I think monetization will be a key differentiator, but yeah, I think we can move it to post MVP feature roadmap. I think we might make some promises around it on the crowdfunding page and our marketing, but we don't actually need the features of it built in to the MVP.
Yeah, agreed. And also, as you've been pointing out so much, the Reddit channel where people are constantly feeding us with things they want to see, I think we can create kind of a next V2, a competitive analysis V2. So we include all this. But I think we are a lot clearer on how to conduct this analysis. I'm gonna make some adjustments to this template, so Patrick is very aligned with what we need to do. I'm just going to adapt the template, so we're doing the features, so we can essentially bring all the screens of the feature and then do the different analysis. What else? The feature matrix I'll adjust as well, and I think we are set. Anything else you want to add, Senya, Katie?
I think this is perfect. And I think we're very aligned, and I'm excited to get into this.
Yeah, this is exciting. Thank you, guys.
And I am just like, I'm so thrilled you both are on the design team. I could not have asked for like more talented, thoughtful, like just everything. So good.
Likewise, Katie. I'm so eager to learn from you. I have to say, I was kind of bummed that you were going to be so involved in other things. So I'm very happy that we get to keep you for another few weeks so I can learn as much as I can from you. I love your vision and your clarity. So thank you as well for that. And I'm looking forward to get into the trenches with Senya. I am sure we're going to do something very cool here.
Yeah, I really appreciate both of you being here.
Yeah.
And excited.
And Patrick, dear Patrick.
And dear Patrick.
Yeah, so let's see, what else do I have to say? So, okay, I have, to be super clear, step one, go to the MVP document and finishing like that table. So everyone is kind of aligned, but the notes part, you're going to adjust the table so we have like the checklist and the notes part. Okay.
And then there's going to be, I'm following up with Autumn after this call to compile, like to create a template or like a document with sections so that people can sort of pour more of their user experience notes and research into the features that they want to focus on and add to each other's features, like a slightly deeper dive document.
Perfect. Awesome. So, Senya, who do you want to analyze? Which competitors? Do you want the list? It's here in a comment. So we're going to do TikTok, Blue Sky. I remember you had TikTok and Blue Sky assigned initially for you. So do you still want to tackle those, or are you inspired to tackle a different one?
I think Blue Sky, I wonder if we should do that one a little bit different, because everybody's going to be looking into Blue Sky a little bit as well. So I'm wondering if we adjust that within the competitor analysis, like on our end. I'd be happy to take on TikTok. I can also do Skylight, even though it's not going to be on the same level of depth. I won't be able to do the sign up flow because I've already created or like signed in to my Blue Sky account from that. But maybe I'll see if there is like a setup process. I don't think there really was.
I can do that for you. I was thinking creating a new account in Blue Sky and going through a whole onboarding process, taking screenshots for you. Or even
She's going to do that one too. So you can connect with Casey.
yeah, Casey.
Um,
Casey's going to do that.
Yeah, she's going to do a screen recording, I think, of her sign up flow
So
for Blue
that is
Sky.
even better.
Okay.
Asking her to share that with us. Yeah.
Neptune is
Is
also in beta.
Yeah.
So that's
so Neptune has a Discord, and some of the devs have already gone in there and spied on them in their Discord. That might be our way. to
yeah,
get
I know
any
they have videos on
resources.
TikTok also, where they gave like demos, but I don't think the analysis of it is going to be that deep.
Yeah.
Compared to some of the others. So that's something to keep in mind.
So maybe we can assign Patrick, Neptune, and Red Note. Red Note, it's a big one. And I feel like he's very eager to learn new things. And I think he already has a Red Note account. So we can ask him to tackle those two. I think Red Note's a big one. So what do you think?
That sounds good.
And I will take Pixel Fed and what was the other one? Oh, we have room. Oh,
Loops is part
Unreal.
of the Pixel Fed universe.
and shorts, YouTube shorts. Yeah. So I'll take on Pixel Fed and shorts. Perfect.
Well, Loops is going to be the one that's closer in that.
Yes. The loops in the Pixel Fed.
In the Pixel Fed ecosystem.
Yeah.
That's perfect. I haven't downloaded that app, so I'll go from scratch and do everything. I also have Momentum. I don't remember this account where you have a ton of screenshots from applications. What is it called? Mobin. I have access to Mobin, so I can pull a lot of screenshots as well if you need.
Great. And Sonia, Casey is Info Junkie on Discord, right? Just because you might want to work with her on some of the Blue Sky.
Okay. That sounds good.
Katie, in terms of this is completely out of like side note. The survey, do you want Casera to take over?
That is still undetermined. How are you feeling about like what is on your plates?
Oh no, yeah. I think I am pretty I've tried to spend 2 hours in this project today because I also have other things to attend to. It's just the problems I like this so much that I now have to work a lot on other things because I've been super hooked up with this. But yeah, I would rather not. I would rather focus on, especially this is my wheelhouse. So I rather focus on what I'm really good at instead of something that I'm okay at.
Yeah, I think TBD whether Cassandra is going to take over that, but it will be done. So we have, it might be brought more into the marketing strategy side of things. We have creator outreach as part of like a process that we are building up. We want to have certain creators on board before and enhancing our MVP release. So I think it will get used, and I just need to figure out, I kind of like need to tune where Cassandra's focus is going to provide the most useful information for us, and whether we should merge those two together under her umbrella or whether we should run it in parallel. But the
So
creator
do we
survey
put
would
a pin into the personas that we were going to be working on?
What was that?
Do we put a pin, like a hold to the personas, and we focus on this?
I think pin it for a week, and we will come back to this. Yeah, we'll circle back to this conversation in a week.
Okay.
So
That's
focus on this competitive analysis this week, and we'll resume personas later. Perfect. I am super excited, aligned, very clear on what needs to be done. You ladies have anything else to add?
Just again, I'm so delighted to be surrounded by such talent.
Yeah, me too. I'm so excited and learning things I've never had a conversation of blockchain in my life. So it's fun.
Yeah, it's a whole new world for me.
So thank you so much. Looking forward to our next meeting whenever it is. And let's just keep, oh, now we have the Monday board. So I think we can take this Kanban to Monday instead of having it here. Does Patrick have access to Monday as well? Do you know?
We will try to get him access.
Yeah.
We might be doing a little bit of like crowdfunding just from ourselves.
Yeah.
In order to get the tools we need. But yes, it would be good to get Patrick in there and the dev team in there as soon as possible.
Yeah. Startups.
Startups.
Yeah. Thank you
Thank
so much.
you.
Looking forward to seeing you again.
Thank you guys.
Likewise.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.